Hey everyone, welcome to the Daily for Tuesday, November 8th. I'm Greg Lawless alongside Simon Borg. And news out of Colorado yesterday, Gary Smith will not be returning to the defending champions. Yes, they are still the defending champions for a couple more days here. And Simon, this is maybe not too much of a surprise for some people, but what do you think about all this, Smith not being re-signed?
Greg, at the end of it, you have to say this is a black eye for the Colorado Rapids, that they've allowed it to come to this, where Gary Smith now is in the press talking about being disrespected, talking about how he didn't get help from anyone else. This did not need to happen, in my opinion. It should have been dealt with right after the Cup. Either Gary Smith is in your long-term plans or he's not. Move on. But unfortunately, it's come down to this. Now they have to resolve who's his successor.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And also as the story comes out a little bit about how this year kind of went in the conversations between the two sides. Some good news, though, for some players yesterday. Of course, the finalists for the MLS Awards came out. But also today, some winners have been announced. Rookie of the Year, CJ Sapong for Sporting Kansas City. What do you think?
I don't think anyone's going to dispute this. 5 goals and 5 assists, but aside from that, a lot of productive play on the field. He fit right into MLS. His athletic play, had no fear of defenders, played everywhere on the front line for Sporting Kansas City, including at attacking midfielder in some games. He was versatile. He made an impact in year one.
Well, the two that didn't win it, the two finalists for Rookie of the Year, Perry Kitchen and Michael Farfan, also had very good years as well. Now, Simon, we mentioned the finalists. There's a little bit of a controversy maybe around the Coach of the Year.
Yeah, that's the one that's got the most buzz, Greg. Ziggy Schmidt, Bruce Arena, and Peter Vermees in the running, and a lot of people figured that Peter Novak would be in the mix, and maybe even Dominic Kinnear of the Houston Dynamo. He brought him back from the brink in midseason. Maybe the question, who would come out? Bruce Arena, he has a star-studded squad. It was maybe expected of him to be in first, so it's a good debate.
You could also think maybe Vermees, obviously, with all he did to turn that club around midseason. I think maybe Kinnear, in your mind or in many people's minds now, would get a second look considering what they've done in the playoffs. But I think a coach no one is surprised would not on the finalist list was Hans Backe. And there's stuff going on right now with the New York Red Bulls again. Rafa Marquez right now being looked at by Atlas, supposedly. They want to bring him back to the club where he started his professional career.
And isn't it a coincidence that this comes days after the throwing of the ball at Donovan and getting suspended? This story comes up about possible interest in playing at Atlas. He didn't deny it. He said, if the contact is made and there's a real offer, I'd consider it. So I think the opportunity is there for something to be worked out if, in fact, he doesn't feel settled anymore with the Red Bulls.
Simon, Marquez is not the only Red Bulls player perhaps on the move. There's a report coming out today that Dane Richards is linked to Novara of the Serie A.
This is intriguing because you don't see many Jamaicans in Serie A. But the report says they're targeting him for the winter window in January. It's a player that Hans Backe doesn't want to necessarily let go. So we'll see how that works out. But another player people are talking about this morning, Mark Pelosi, U.S. under-17 midfielder, projects as a left back, signs with Liverpool, an academy deal. And everyone, they're just getting out of hand, especially on Twitter and the message boards. Easy. Let's hold on. Let's see what he can do. Give him a few years. We've seen this before where it hasn't panned out. So let's patience.
Well, a good young player going to a very big club where there are lots of good young players. So I agree with you. We need some patience in that one. Now, Simon, there's also a report now that Andre Hainaut of the Houston Dynamo is being looked at by several clubs. It looks like Bordeaux of Ligue 1, Mallorca in Spain, even Anderlecht in Belgium are looking at the Houston Dynamo defender. And speaking of Hainaut, he was actually on Extra Time Radio yesterday. You can get the latest edition of ET Radio on iTunes and Buzzsprout. That's it for the Daily. We'll talk to you tomorrow.